Okay, so we were working up to a certain point. We were talking about the area of polygons. We did squares, we did rectangles, we did rhombus, we did trapezoids, we did kites, we did parallelograms, and then all of a sudden we did the area of regular polygons. And we got like all these different formulas, right? And those are all polygons, right? What we're going to work on now is we're going to work on something that's not a polygon, right? We're going to work with a circle, okay? Circles are not polygons. Why are they not polygons? All right. So they don't have straight sides. They don't have sides at all. They don't have any vertices. They don't have any interior angles. It's basically just this one concept. So the actual definition of a circle, and I've probably said this a couple times in this class, is you basically have some center point. I'm going to call it C. That's not C. I'm going to call it I guess. The center is called I. And then you're going to have a group of points that are the same distance away from it. So we'll just pick some distance. We'll say this is, well, I'll say it's R. R is the distance. Okay? And all these points that are going to be out here are going to be the exact same distance R away from your center I. And there's a whole bunch of them, and there's some more of them. And they're so close to each other, you can't even really tell, but they're so close to each other, it basically looks like a straight line. And those are all the same distance R away from that center. Okay? So they're the same distance R from the center. Okay? And so we call that distance from the center out to one of the sides, or one of those points on the side, we call it the radius, duh. We call the center C. If we were to draw like another radius out this direction, like so, it's like R and R. Well, two R's make a D, call it diameter. And I think you guys know this pretty well, okay? Let me just write that in case you don't know. D equals 2R. We might need to know that. But then we basically have two different things, okay? We talked about area and we talked about perimeter. Perimeter is, let me see if I can get this right. Perimeter is Greek. Meter means like measurement, meter, and peri means around. Well, that's Greek. In Latin, the word circumference basically means the measure around something. So circumference means the measure around something. So when we talk about a circle, it's the measure around, and it's a curved circle around. So perimeter and circumference basically mean the exact same thing, slightly different languages, and one's for a polygon, and circumference is only for circles. It's basically the perimeter of circles. Okay? Not a huge deal, circumference. And there's two different equations for it, and you can really use either one. You can use pi times d, which I always thought was kind of funny because I would pronounce it pied, like I just pied Mitchell in the face. I don't know, that's kind of dumb. Like you hit him with a pie in the face, you just pied him. Pi times d. Or there's the idea here that it's 2 pi r. Okay? And 2 pi r means the exact same thing as pi d, pi times d. They mean the same thing. I like pied. I just think it's kind of neat. But sometimes if you don't know the diameter, just say 2 pi r, and that works out well. Universally, most people know 2 pi r. The second thing, we're going to talk about area, and the formula is right there. Area is pi r squared. Some people will mix these up. They'll use, well, there's like 2 pi r, there's pi r squared. They both have the 2, the pi, and the r in there, but they're kind of in a different order. So some people get confused. Don't get confused. If you already are confused, get unconfused. There's just two formulas, one for area, one for circumference. Okay? The directions for this first part might be a little different than you're used to. It says, for each circle, determine the area and the circumference. Show all your work. Keep pi in your answer. Okay? Keep pi in your answer. So don't all of a sudden calculate it out. You don't even need to. You barely even need a calculator today. Circle your final answers. Make sure you use the proper units. Okay, so that sounds pretty familiar. So for the first one, we're just going to find the area. Area equals pi r squared. That'd be pi times our radius is 3 squared, or our answer would be 9 pi. And then what would our units be? So this is area squared. So area equals 9 pi square feet. Isn't that kind of weird having the pi in there? Okay, and the pi should always be at the end of it. It's kind of like it is a variable. It stands for 3.14159265549, whatever. That whole long number, right? So since pi is a variable, we actually put it after the number. Would it technically be correct if you wrote pi? Whoops, that's not right. If you were to write pi times 9, if I can write a 9, that would technically be correct, but it's not the way that people normally write it. Okay, so what you would do is you just write 9 pi, like it's a variable, like people would write, 9x or 9x squared, something like that. All it is just a variable, the pi is, so we're going to put it after the constant. Is that okay? And you do not need to write 28 point whatever. In fact, since the directions say to leave pi in your answer, it'd actually be wrong if you'd actually say 9 times pi is this. Yes, sir? Yes. Area is always two-dimensional. It's always a two-dimensional space that we're talking about. So the units are always going to reflect that. And in fact, if we want to talk about this, we could. When we find area equals basically this pi times r. Okay? So that's going to be pi times 3 feet times 3 feet. So the reason it's squared is because we do, well, 3 times 3 is 9. And feet times feet squared, or square feet. Does that make a little bit more sense? Since we're multiplying two things by it, that gives us square feet. Okay, are we on this problem yet? No, not quite. What do we still have to do? Circumference. Circumference equals, since we have a radius, I'm just going to use that formula, 2 pi r. Means it's 2 times pi times the radius is 3. When you simplify that, you get 6 pi. Would it be feet or square feet? It would just be regular feet. It's like the perimeter. It's just a one-dimensional thing. Your circumference is this. By the way, the circumference is capital C. The area is capital A. Everything else that we're talking about is all lowercase letters. Okay. Rashad, can you help us with number 2? Are we given the radius or the diameter? Diameter. How long is the radius? 8. So I'm just going to write a little 8 over here, 8 meters. What do you want to find first, circumference or area? Okay, circumference, what's the formula that we're going to use? Two pi r. Okay, that sounds good to me. So that'd be 2 times pi times, how long is our radius? 8, sounds good to me. 2 times 8, 16, so we have 16 pi. What would our units be? Meters. Just meters, because circumference is just a one-dimensional thing. It's just how far around. Because I could actually break this circle, it's kind of round like this, and I could just like lay it out like this, and it's just some length, like 16 pi meters. Right? Okay, Rashad, area. Pi r squared. And I think it's good to write these formulas out because that way it helps you to memorize them. It also lets me know what is it that they're multiplying. They're not just like multiplying random numbers. Lets me know that you're doing this in a specific order. So pi times what number? 8 squared. What's 8 squared? So we have 64 pi. And what would our units be then? So square meters. Good job. Okay. Why don't you guys try number 3 on your own? It says 49. We might get some decimals. It's all right. This is kind of a weird deal because it is a decimal. number. Okay, I don't want you guys to be confused, so let's take a look at this. This is really similar to number 2, except number 2 we had an even number, which is 16, and number 3 we had an odd number, which is 49. If we look at it, it gave us the diameter. It gave us the entire length across there, which is 49. What we want is we kind of want the radius for part of our answer. So circumference is pi times d, or it's 2 pi r. It'll give you the same answer, whichever formula you use, because it's the same thing. So that would be 49 pi centimeters. The way we got this, we just multiplied the diameter, which is 49, times pi. So 49 pi centimeters. Okay? If you wanted, you could say 2 times 24.5, which would again give you 49 pi centimeters. The area is a little bit different. We need to have the radius, so we need to divide it in half, so that gives us a 24.5. We need to divide it in half, so we say pi times r squared, or 24.5 squared, which gives us the 600.25 pi square centimeters. Where do we round to? Usually the nearest tenth. So if you had 600.3, I think that's fine. 600.3 pi. It's kind of weird that we're getting an exact answer with the pi, but rounding the other number, I don't know. It's kind of weird, so do the best you can. Any questions on how that works? Okay. What's going on below there? What's different from what's below on this next one? Okay. There's no pictures. Okay. It says use the given diameter d or radius r to find the circumference and the area of it. Round to the nearest tenth. For some reason, number 4 is underlined. I don't know why, but that might mean something special. Maybe we should do that one and find out. We're just finding the circumference and the area, so circumference equals, since it gave us the diameter, we'll just say pi d. So that'd be 27 pi centimeters. Area, well, in order to find the area, we have to divide the radius in half, which would be 13.5 centimeters. So our area is pi r squared. That's pi times 13.5 squared. And then we'll have to get a calculator, probably because 0.5s are tough to multiply. I divided 27 in half. So our area is going to be 182.3 pi. Wait, hold on. It doesn't say keep pi in your answer, so maybe I should multiply that out and round to the nearest tenth. Notice we got to read the directions. We got to do what the directions say. So I'm going to multiply that. I'm going to actually use the pi button on my calculator for pi, which might make a difference. 5572.6 square centimeters. That means I probably need to change this first answer over here. This is probably going to be 84.8. Like so. Okay, the directions do not say to leave pi in your answer. So that means we're not going to leave pi in our answer. We're actually going to multiply by pi. Don't use 3.14 unless it tells you use 3.14. If it says to, if it's pi, don't use 3.14. Use the actual pi button on your calculators. Yeah. 27 times pi should give you 84 point some stuff that around to 8. Directions say round to the nearest tenth. When you get that, hit that button right there above the enter. Okay, number 2. No, or 5, I guess, is what we're on. If our diameter is 5, what's our radius going to be? 2.5. If we're not given our radius, we should probably find it each time. You're probably noticing I'm doing that, but let me tell you. Your circumference is going to equal pi times d, or that'd be 5 pi inches. Again, it doesn't say to leave it like that, so we should probably multiply that out. So 3.14159265497 times 5. When we round to the nearest tenth, should be 15.7 inches. For area, that's pi times 2.5 squared. 2.5 squared is 6.25. Multiplied by pi, we should be somewhere around 19.6 square inches. Just have a question on number 5, how that works, 4 or 5. Yes, sir. Yeah, if the directions do not say leave pi in the answer, then don't. Multiply it out. Okay, so you have to watch the directions. It also says round to the nearest tenth, and that's specifically, hey, that means pi is in there. It means I got to round to the nearest tenth. Yes, ma'am. The reason I use that is because it gave me the diameter. If it gives me the radius, like number 6 and 7, I would probably just use 2 pi r. You'll get the same answer. It'll work the same way. You'll get the same answer. Okay, why don't you guys try 6 and 7? I'll just give you guys a head start on it. Try 6 and 7 on your own. Just make sure you can do this. This is going to be very similar to your assignment. It's going to give you basically some numbers like this. It'll tell you either your diameter or your radius. So try 6 and 7 on your own. Try 6 and 7 on your own. Can you fill that up for me? Yeah, you were absent. Can you write absent at the top? Yeah, can you write your name on the board? Absent. S-E-N-T. A-B-S-E-N-T. Absent. Hopefully you're nearly finished with this. I'm going to get started here. God bless you. Okay, I have my answers up here. Hopefully you can check yours to see how close you were on things. If you got this down, if you don't have this down. If you don't have the right answers, maybe write down what the right answers are to see how you might be able to get to them. For circumference, it's just 2 times pi times your radius this time. It gave you the radius, so you need to make sure to use that formula for it. When you round it, it's what, like 75.99 something? And what it would do is it would round up to 76, or maybe it was like 76.0 something. 02, yeah. On that one, okay. We'll take a look at that one soon. So this idea is that it does say round in the nearest tenth, but since it'd be 76.0, we don't really need to write it, we just write 76. Same thing happens down here. This one's 459.9 something. When it rounds to 460, okay? Make sure you have the right units, centimeters and square centimeters. Did I mess the did I mess that one up? Yeah, I think I squared it here, so make sure that you don't do what I did, I guess. That'd be a mess. So your circumference equals, what is it? 24.5, and that would just be centimeters. That's the 3.9 times the 2, and then doing that. And the area, is the area right? Yeah. So when you kind of go back and forth between radius or circumference and area, sometimes you end up squaring something you're not supposed to, so just take your time with it. I'm pretty good at area and circumference, but I even messed up, so hopefully you don't. Yes, ma'am. Do you have your work written down? So what'd you write down for circumference? Circumference equals what? Pi d. Do you know the diameter? No. So that would be pi times, well, you have to figure out what the diameter is. The diameter is actually twice this number, so it would still be 24.2 if you want to do it that way. You still have to multiply by pi. Did you have that written down? Okay. That's probably where that's at, though. Just to realize, what did they give me? What can I do with it to find it? Okay. The last thing on the back, they're kind of word problems, kind of, I guess. Says if a circle has a radius of 10 inches, find the diameter, the circumference, and the area. Okay, this is not too tough. I don't know how much room you have. If your radius equals 10 inches, what does your diameter equal? 20 inches. Your circumference is just going to be pi times d, 62 point. Oh, let me actually write out the work. That's probably a better idea here. Equals, let's see, that's pi times 20, which would be the 64.8 inches. Oh boy, 62.8. And then finally, area is going to equal pi times r squared. That's pi times 10 squared, which would be 314 inches. Okay. And for each of these, since it is asking for several different things, diameter and circumference and area, I think it's important to have the unit up there, to have the capital A, the capital C, the lowercase d, to have those units there and to circle them when you're done, just so people can find your answer so you can figure out what's going on. Yes, sir. I do want you to hit the pi button unless the directions tell you to use 3.14 for pi. I don't know why teachers tell people to do that when there is a pi button on your calculator. Just use the pi button. I think that's the best idea. Yes, ma'am. That's what I would do. Yes, I agree. If it doesn't tell you, round the nearest tenth. If a circle has the circumference of this, find the radius and its area. That's a little bit different, isn't it? Okay. Since we're talking about circumference and we're talking about radius, which formula do you think I should use? Circumference equals 2 pi r. That sounds good to me. The circumference we know is 24. We know 2. We know what pi is. We don't know what the radius is. So how would you go about solving this? Okay, so 2 times pi. Yeah, So we divide both sides by basically that 2 pi, right? Because that would get rid of the pi's, it would get rid of the 2's here. You'd just be left with r. R is going to equal 24 divided by 2 pi. And if you're putting this in your calculator, you might do something like that. Or else you might get kind of a funky answer. Okay? So it's 24. In effect, you're doing 24 divided by 2, which is 12. You're also dividing by pi, which should give us like 3.8, maybe, something like that. So we're around 3.8. Maybe I should write this, 3.8, like this. And it doesn't tell us units, so I'm just going to write units. Then our area, we would just do pi r squared. It's pi times that 3.8 number squared. And luckily, I still have that number in my calculator. I can just square it and multiply by pi. Shoot. When you use that number, the whole number, this is what I had. When I used the whole number that was in the calculator still. Okay, and that's probably the best way to do math is to actually use the entire number that it had. So it actually had, what was this, 3.8192, whatever this was, this whole number here. And that's the number that I squared and then multiplied by pi. So whatever this number was, I don't remember what it was. Use that whole number squared. Okay? Okay. Tyler Cox, the last one. Can you read it out loud for us? Okay. Circumference. Has a pi in it. That's kind of cool. So what do I do, Tyler? Let's do pi d first. That'll probably be easier. So look at this. Sorry. 12 pi equals pi d. What does d equal? What's that? Yeah, d stands for diameter. What does d equal, though? Okay, you have 12 times pi equals pi times d. What does d equal? Okay. Let's try to get the d by itself. Well, how do we get the d by itself? Yeah, we're going to divide this side by pi, divide by this side by pi. That cancels the pi's out there. See that? This divides, gets rid of the pi's there. So what does d equal? Oh, there we go. D equals 12. We'll say units. If d equals 12 units, what does the radius equal? Yeah, 6 units. It's always half of whatever that radius is. So we just have to do this. Area equals pi r squared. That's pi times 6 squared. Probably since it gave us our radius with pi in it, do you think we should have area with the pi in it as well, probably? I think so, too. So I think this should probably be 36 pi square units. It's probably the way to write it, just because I noticed, hey, we started off with pi. We should probably end with the pi there as well. Which can kind of be kind of confusing. If you don't know which way to write it, write both. Just write both, and we'll figure out which one we need to do. So if you needed to, 36 pi, we could just write, hey, also, by the way, Mr. Minsky, this is 300 whatever here, like so. Just write them both, circle them both, and you'll be good because you have both your bases covered, right? Whenever in doubt, I guess if you have no idea which way to write it, write both, and we'll be able to grade it correctly. Yeah.
Whenever I type in a number and then pi,
Yeah, so if your calculator says 36 pi, and that's all it says. It means you probably have one of these calculators, and you have to hit the little double arrow button, which is right above your enter. And what that button right there will do is it'll actually convert it back and forth between sort of exact answer and some sort of decimal answer. So all you have to do is hit that button right there. And is that good? Good. Well, now it's on the recording, so if people need to check it out online, they can hear it online as well. You guys do have an assignment today. It's fairly short. If you do need help on it, make sure to let me know.